right. Well, good morning and welcome to another Bright News discussion. My name is Shannon Braswell, and I'm joined today by a returning guest, and that's none other than Jovani Patterson. So, Mr. Patterson, how you doing?
Doing great, Shannon. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all
Man, so
right.
since your name is Shannon, man, you need to go ahead and get you one of them brown chairs and get you like little, cross back and forth interview style, you know,
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
like you're
yeah.
from Alabama.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the funny thing is everybody they're like, I've never met a black dude named Shannon. But then I always remind them like, wasn't there like a football player named
Yeah.
Shannon? Shannon
Shannon.
Sharp?
Everybody knows Shannon Sharp.
Yeah, yeah, Club Shay Shay. So,
Yeah. That's all you missing. You just gotta get the big brown leather chairs and the big leather couch,
you're right, right,
with that oak table or whatever it is in the middle.
right, right.
And a
Give
fireplace.
me a couple, a couple track suits,
Yeah.
whatnot.
Matter of fact, what you
Yeah.
should do, man, I know I'm derailing the conversation a little bit, but just do the virtual background, which and then just take an image of his set.
There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go
So
with it.
yeah,
A little
yeah,
bourbon in my hand or something,
yes.
cognac. Yeah, yeah. We're
They
all
say just
good.
do apple juice, right? It looks the same.
Yeah. I'll play it off. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
man.
cool. So yeah, man, how's everything with your YouTube channel and everything? Popping politics, just the
Uh,
guys.
the Just the Guys, we reached the first level of monetization, so that's good.
Okay.
So we're doing pretty well there, and the ladies show, Popping Politics. The work they're doing with that
Mhm.
show is incredible.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure where we were the last time we talked, but they're over 120,000 subs now.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
our goal for 2024 was to get to end the year with about 106,000 subs, and we're well over that. So
Okay.
the ladies are doing great, and I'm excited for what 2025 is going to bring because like the sky, like we're really just getting started with them.
Right. Right, right, right. That's great, man. That's good to hear. Speaking of social media and everything, I kind of wanted to get your take on how you feel about all these, the post-election. So this is post-election, all these reactions to, Trump winning the election and how a lot of a lot of women are talking about like 4B, which I don't really not too knowledgeable about what that is, but I think it came from like Korea or something like that. And they're like, we're not gonna have relationships with guys. You guys voted for abortion, for pro-life. You guys, you voted for a chauvinist, a misogynist. He's everything under the book that is wrong with with men, right? So, so how do you feel about that? Like, what's your take on these
Well,
I don't want to
first,
call them narcissists, but I don't know.
I mean, look, man. First, you'd be. I mean, you would think like these people didn't exist 4 years ago, right? They were just born within the last 4 years,
Right.
because if they're 20, 25, and these liberals that are saying that now, I mean, like they were alive in 2016 to 2020. They
Right.
survived. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
like the rights weren't taken away.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they probably amplified their voices more than anything else because just saying the name Trump brought them money and brought them notoriety and brought them, experience. So to
Yeah.
say we're going back into an era where there's no rights, particularly for women, um,
Mhm.
is is crazy to me. It just goes back to the what they're doing. And they're just trying to fear monger, generally the most vulnerable. And there's all this idea of, again, when you're taking over the community, because one of my foundational principles is bringing family and the importance of family. And
Mhm.
in order to destroy any community or culture, you always, one, take out the men, and then really infiltrate, the minds of the women, right?
Mhm.
And you see a
Yeah.
lot of these, these advocates or saying like, well, we're not having sex, or well, whatever it is.
Mhm.
These these statements are coming from these really simpy men
Mhm.
and really feminazi women. So it's just another example of the real war that we're facing.
Mhm.
And it's a battle, the cultural war where masculinity is demonized, where for whatever reason it's up to the president to protect every household and not to individual families and individual, fathers being back in the home to
Mhm.
protect our neighborhoods and our communities. But you would think again these people didn't
Yeah.
exist for 4 years ago the
Yeah.
way that they're talking. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, that's something that you brought that up because I'm thinking like, well, yeah, they were. It's not like Trump what hasn't wasn't president, of this
Yeah,
country before. And like you know, I funny enough, and I'm gonna try to transition this because this is interesting here. My dog, my kid, uh, who's in high school, the day after the election, she went to school, and her teacher was crying in front of the whole class. And so I said, "Well, what was she crying for?" She said, "She's crying because her daughter is gonna have to go to Canada to get an abortion or something like that. So they're saying they're gonna leave the country and they're gonna move to Canada." And I'm thinking to myself, okay, wait a minute. As far as I know, every every state has a they can make their own decision about that. It's a state by state decision.
yep,
And I don't understand why she's getting into a frenzy about not, I mean, from a Christian perspective, not that you should want to do that anyways, but you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
um, yeah, and then my thing is, why are you telling the kids that?
yeah.
Why are you speaking to high school kids about that?
Well, again, it goes back to the, in education, it's more of an indoctrination
Mhm.
factory than it is, thinking for yourself and critically thinking.
Mhm.
Um, but it kind of plays into the hands of the conservatives. Say, well, abstinence is the best policy anyway. So if
Mhm.
you're sitting here saying, well, we're not going to have sex for the next 4 years because we're not allowed to have abortions,
Yeah.
good. You're not hurting us.
Right, right. You're,
I
yeah,
mean,
you're not helping nobody but yourself. You know
right.
what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, you don't have to pay, you don't have to go crying and have to go through the emotional trauma of
Right.
not having, getting rid of a baby, which is a very traumatizing process.
Mhm.
And I personally don't use the word trauma loosely. Like,
Mhm.
it's kind of been normalized to do, but, killing a baby or removing a baby or whatever however you want to put it
Mhm.
is a very traumatizing um experience. No matter how
Mhm.
much they say shout your abortion and those type of things, it's
Mhm.
it's traumatizing. And what
Mhm.
happens to these babies? I mean, they get mangled up, and you've seen some of the images of an aborted baby. I mean,
Mhm.
they're mangled up and split apart as part of this
Mhm.
process. Um,
Yeah.
so it's good if there's less of that happening,
Yeah.
because you felt like the wrong man got in office. Great,
Mhm.
that is a good thing.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, what do you feel like? Just go. Since I was telling you about the school situation. What do you feel about the Department of Education being dismantled? I don't. I mean, I'm not really sure that they've. Someone might ask, well, have they really done anything to actually help kids? I mean, most of the public schools throughout the nation are not up to par, right? And then I guess the second thing I want to ask is, what is the sort of um, what is the sort of why do you think public education and like government funding for education is against, say, being able to have school choice? Parents being able to send their kids to the kind of school they want to send them to. If you say, well, look, I'm a Catholic, I want to send my kids to a Catholic school, they can get, an education and have the moral, you know, a moral education and everything, or you want to send them a charter school or something like that. What's the sort of problem with being able to do that? Like, why would public education be against that? You know, other
Well,
than
I
not
mean,
being able to get the funding, get the
well,
money.
I mean, you say other than not getting the funding, but again, if you follow the money,
Mhm,
right, it becomes evident. I mean, the Bible says, "For the love of the money is the root of all evil,"
mhm,
right?
mhm.
And we think that's on a personal level, and it is, but
Yeah.
you see these systems established that really go against the we say natural order of things, and
Mhm,
how God intended. Now, I don't want to get
mhm,
necessarily into a spiritual or Christian discussion with this, but when we talk about the board, not board, but the Department of Education, it's effectively try to standardize how children learn across the entire country, right?
mhm.
But it was done as a favor for the teachers union. So there's a teachers lobby. We can get more money. We could, um, uh, you know, uh, do favors more for teachers unions, and it's really not for the kids. Now it's the perfect grift, right? Because you say, "Hey, man, it's for the kids. It's for the kids." Who's
Yeah.
going to say no to that? We need
Right.
more. Oh, we're experiencing more issues with the kids.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's give them more money. We need to do more research for the kids. Yes.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
there's new way of learning for the kids. Like, who's going to say
Right.
no to
Right.
money for the kids?
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
we've seen is this, and it's an issue of bureaucracy, right? What we're seeing is a major issue of bureaucracy, and what happens with bureaucracy, it becomes then more interested in protecting itself than actually
Mhm,
serving the interests of what it was quote unquote designed for or named for, I would say. So Department of Ed named for being an oversight for education, ensuring resources, quote unquote, are being distributed equitably amongst different communities, whether it's urban or rural or what have you. But
mhm,
in all reality, it just becomes a bureaucratic machine that's collecting your taxpayer dollars, put funding in wherever it wants to, whether it's this cutting edge new research for how kids learn or what have
mhm.
you. And it never and it doesn't ever pan out well, right? I
Yeah.
do believe education should be more local, right? Why
Right.
why are kids, required to learn certain things that pertain to, let's say, a city, all right, that don't necessarily apply to the country life or what have you, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
basics, reading, writing, arithmetic, those things should be fundamentally learned. But
Yeah.
the other aspects of, how can you thrive locally, that should be more applicable, more hands-on to everybody in their local jurisdiction. But this
Mhm,
is also what helps build community, in my opinion. So say someone, you remember the rhyme of the city mouse and country mouse, right? The
mhm,
country mouse comes to the city, they're still able to communicate, work together, and that's culture. That's how you learn from one another, and now you're able to provide a value or service to each other. What they're trying to have is these cookie cutter people that think the same, look the same,
mhm.
sound the same all across the country, when
Right.
that's not how we should, we should be. Man, there's so
Yeah.
many avenues we can go into this, man, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. You
crazy.
need, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's sort of like I think you need that sense of diversity of opinion in order to like help build a successful anything, successful business, successful nonprofit organization, whatever, you know what I mean? You need that diversity of opinion. And I do understand what you mean about the whole thing of like a cookie cutter because it's and I say this specifically for um I think this happens a lot more in places that are uh dominated by liberals,
Hmm.
right? You know, um like in Seattle, which is like, it's
Yeah.
notorious for being like the
Yeah.
most liberal place ever. Okay, you know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? So yes, that's our fault. But you know, you do get that sense, right? If you say, well, hey, I don't agree with that. it's like you get this whole, everybody has this like visceral, just automatic attack. Like, are you a, are you a Trump supporter?
Yeah.
Or are you a conservative? You
Yeah.
know? And so it just goes down the list and you'd be like, man, I don't know, dude. Should I say anything else? 'Cause
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean they're effective at building machine, and there's a lot of precedent to this, right? It's not, these things aren't anything new. I mean,
yeah.
you look at what happened with, the communist plan, which is being in full effect
Mhm.
right now. It's been infiltrated our churches, schools, effectively our government. But this, all this stuff has happened before, and it's in the playbook. You take over the education system, you
Yeah.
control the media, you control the textbooks,
Mhm.
do away with things like the Pledge of Allegiance in your schools.
Mhm. Mhm.
It creates an environment where critical thinking and self-thought is a problem, right? It,
Mhm.
it it
Mhm.
creates this environment where, yeah, you think for yourself. Oh, you must be concerned. Oh, you must be one of them. You're not on the in crowd. And we
Yeah.
see it on the national level, and particularly with the lawsuit that we had against Baltimore City Public Schools. You see it in these local school boards as well, especially ones that where parents and the public are less involved because of things like political appointments versus open for election. So in Baltimore City, our school board is mostly appointed by the mayor, and we've only had one election now in which two of the school board members were elected, and that was in addition to the ones that already existed. So we didn't keep the same number, for example, of board members. We added two that were then elected, and the rest are still appointed. So, we're creating this environment where the people are less involved, um,
Right.
and it's just this kind of bureaucratic machine
Yeah.
that's running it.
Yeah. 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 I remember this was a while ago that I think I saw you on a video, and you were talking, they were talking about how the Baltimore education system like was had one, there was like one of the lowest rates or something like that with the math, the arithmetic and everything. And yeah, I mean, I was thinking to myself, well, you know, how, I'm not understand, if the Department of Education and the school board and everything, I mean, why you have all these superintendents and you got all these people in the secretarial positions at the school board and down there at the, whatever. I'm like, okay, but the kids keep coming out with the same scores.
Yeah.
They don't know how to read, and that's the same thing here. It's happening here too. They don't know how to read. They don't have reading comprehension. But then at the
But
same
they
time,
but they have
yeah.
social skills. They have social conformity, right? They all
Mhm.
think the same in terms
Mhm.
of let's quote unquote trust the experts, right,
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
everything. So the experts are whoever's leading in the news media or whoever's telling me to do this. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to evaluate it for myself because I'm not
Yeah.
smart enough. Effectively
Right,
is the
right, right,
message
right.
that and they're not saying they're not going to say you're not smart enough directly, but they're going to say trust the expert, listen to the
Yeah.
expert, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because you're not an expert on this, is what they will say.
Right.
You're not an expert.
Right, right,
You're not
right,
an expert on how kids learn, so you have no right to question us on how we're teaching kids. That's what they say to parents, right?
right,
You're
right,
not the
right, right.
expert
Yeah,
on health, so how can you
yeah.
tell me that exercise and daily habit, daily good habits is good? Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
like it's
Yeah, yeah.
or these type of things, or how can you question me when I'm telling you these, chemicals and earth metals that exist are not harmful to put in your body?
Hmm.
Like, look, I
Yeah,
mean, God generally
yeah,
didn't make
yeah.
rocks edible, so like,
Right, right.
like, so
Yeah.
I know I can eat, I know I can eat some lettuce, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
but but that's what it boils down to. They say, hey, and this is those children might not be able to read, right, but they can trust an expert, right? They might
Hmm.
not be able to critically think, but they know enough to say, hey, there's an expert on this, and I'll just listen to that expert.
Hmm. Hmm. and that's good. And I guess that gives people a sense of comfort or feeling of safety and like, well, they know what's best. Yeah, since they're the expert.
Yeah.
Okay, now I want to ask you something else. Now this is for higher education. Okay, now I don't know how much time we have, but I'll try to keep it short. With the DEI, the DEI, you know, eh, uh, social justice warrior stuff, and the affirmative action and all that. Okay. It seems to me that a lot of people are talking as if that stuff is starting to kind of and the indoctrination of communism, Marxism, and stuff like that. Um, it seems to me that it's starting to get through to say the Gen Z and even millennials and everything that hey, maybe this what we were trying to push for so long under these last however many years, 4 to 8 years, is not is actually not been good, at all. Like people are not learning, they're just being indoctrinated.
Yep.
So, do you think there's sort of room for a class, say maybe on diversity, equity, inclusion, or you know, um, I don't know, women's studies, I mean, should stuff like that still be
I
in
mean, I think
school?
I think people still are like, especially guys, we're always interested in women's studies, right? But, but
Yeah.
look, look, man. Look, the whole DEI thing, and this is what generally the left does. And I'm gonna tell you this: my wife hates when I say things, or hates when any of my products, my podcasts, or whatever, we say the left, right? Because who is
Okay.
the left? The
Right.
left, the left, the left. Well,
Yeah.
look, I understand, but we're at
Yeah.
war, right? And it's a culture
Right.
war, it's a mental war.
Mhm.
Even the Bible says like we battle not against flesh and blood, but
Mhm.
against principalities and rules in high places, right? So
Mhm.
we're always in these battles, and it's culture, it's mental, it's psychological,
Mhm.
in how these things are portrayed. Now, what the left does in general is find these brilliant words to hide behind. Black
Okay.
Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Who's going to
Right.
disagree? And if you
Right.
do disagree, oh man, we got you,
You're a
right?
racist. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Diversity, equity, inclusion. Who is disagreeing with diversity, equity, and inclusion? Well, if you are, you're a racist. So
Mhm.
they're perfect at putting forth these terms that if you go against it, you're vilified and demonized. Now,
Mhm.
diversity, equity, inclusion was ultimately an entire grift. I mean, this was proven, and they put it in movie form by Am I Racist and Matt Walsh and what he did. And I think that's why you're seeing, the downfall, because when you start to really examine and start laughing at these things, especially when you see Robin DiAngelo just, repair, trying to make up for reparations, and she was hesitant because, oh no, the collectives needs to do it, not just me. But then you
Right.
challenge on, okay, let me give them $23 or whatever I got in my pocket.
Right. Right.
And how
Right.
much
Right.
people are charging just to sit down to talk about how racist you are and to do these dinners, and then we'll now have online courses that you can say you're a certified, there we go, DEI expert, right?
Right.
Uh,
Right. Yeah.
it became a big grift, and what you had was all these corporations and companies really, they're not really implementing any different policies or anything like that. They're just bringing in these people to say how racist white people are, and they're
Mhm.
paying these large sums of money, and it
Yeah.
becomes just a virtue signal grift. Now,
Right.
one thing about particularly being Christian and and a believer is that the truth always comes to light, right? So when you believe the truth will come out, right?
Yeah.
It's no surprise to me at this point, right, that people are shying away from it, right? Because
Right.
generally people want to gravitate towards the truth. They don't want to be deceived. And when the deception becomes obvious, right, you don't have you don't have a leg to stand on. So the DEI has been a major deceptive practice, right? You hide behind the name of DEI, you hide behind the name of BLM, and it
Yeah.
hasn't resulted in the fruits. But again, none of this stuff is anything new, right?
Yeah.
One of the communist plans is always to find a way to divide the people. the
Mhm.
easiest way, and if you look at if you go back and read some like Karl Marx, not
Mhm.
Karl Marx, but what's the other one? Hitler. You know, when you was reading some of his things and what he was doing in
Mhm.
Germany, he was taking his elements from the Democratic Party on how they were separating people, right? So they were
Mhm.
using ele Hitler was using the, the process of the Democrat Party to
Yeah.
implement and how they would say, hey, you know, there's a permanent struggle
Right.
between the races, right? Because it's
Okay.
obvious. It's an
Right. Right.
obvious
Right. Right.
distinction, right? You
Okay.
can't, you know, if you're
Mhm.
walking down the street, you can't necessarily tell if somebody's, you know, Christian. You can't tell, well, particularly Christianity. You
Based
can't
on
really tell
religion.
somebody's like Buddhist, Christian, what
Yes.
have you. You at the grocery store. You
Right.
know, but skin color, oh man,
Yeah.
that's an easy,
Yeah.
easy distinction. Let's
Right.
let's drive the wedge, continue to drive the wedge on um these differences, so we'll create a constant state of chaos. That way we
Mhm.
can drive this separation, drive these alternative motives, and keep the people divided to implement these harmful plans ultimately to a society to control it. That's
Mhm.
what's going on here, right? We got
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
battles of the educated versus uneducated. Now they had the
Right.
battles of whether you went to college or you didn't go to college. You have the battles
Right.
still of black and white. You know, they it's
Right.
just perceived battle of rich and poor. Why can some billionaire be the president when
Right.
you know, or get off when there are all these struggling people? They Because
Right.
most of these people see no similarities between Donald Trump and a working man, right? They
Yeah.
cannot make they cannot make the comparison, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah.
that they have in common. They can't believe he has
Yeah.
anything in common. So,
Right.
so there's always these constant wedges of divide that the communists are
Mhm.
trying to push because it creates a forever revolution, which was
Mhm.
the angle of Karl Marx.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now that's an interesting. I never knew that actually about the about Adolf Hitler and the Democrats at all. I never heard that before. You know,
Well, don't
I
believe
find it.
me. Just do your research, man. Just do your
Yeah.
research.
Yeah. I do my
Don't
research.
believe me on this, you know, but
Yeah.
do your research.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the first step to becoming your own expert, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, lastly, I wanna ask you about like what do you think some of the what do you foresee like some of the positive things that are going to come out of this um presidency, like his administration and stuff, because he's doing a lot of shuffling around, like, and getting rid of stuff, and he's putting like Doge, with Elon Musk and
Mhm.
Ramaswamy to doing the Department of Government Efficiency or something like that.
Yep.
you know um he's like, we need to back away from what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. We need to back away from what's going on in the Middle East. We don't want to get involved at all with what's going on in Syria. We should just
Mhm.
stay out of that. So, you know, I think we can all say, like, in the beginning of a presidential term and all that stuff, like, you see these kind of like things that seem like they're very uh what do you call it? Very dramatized and very, like, oh, this is going to be difficult. They're going to do a lot of things to derail this and stuff like that. But you know, I think Trump is a formidable guy. Like, he knows how to kind of,
Yeah.
take the punches and roll with it and maneuver. And so, yeah, I mean, I'll just ask you that on the last thing. Like, what do you sort of foresee with this administration?
Man, America's back, baby.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a big thing, man.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you ever done this, but like spring cleaning,
Hmm.
or you know, or really took the time to maybe evaluate, like, for example, personal finances, or taking the
Hmm.
time to really, you know, business coaching or what have you. When you really
Hmm.
sit down and try to evaluate where you are and where you go want to go,
Hmm.
there's that there's that period you have to go through of deep reflection. And then when you
Hmm.
start cleaning, things get harder, tougher, and dirtier,
Hmm.
right? So when
Hmm.
you start that spring cleaning, you start kicking up all the dust, you start pulling things out of the closets, you start moving things around.
Hmm.
at first it seemed before you started cleaning, you was like, man, I could have managed this mess or I could have kept it, but it was the reason you wanted to clean was because something was wrong, right? And then when
Yeah.
you start
Yeah.
cleaning, the house gets dirtier, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
what we're going to see, and this is what I hope we as Americans understand, and anybody, but the Democrats and the left are going to really play on this angle is that things are getting worse because Trump
Mm,
right now is in the process of doing a spring cleaning, a house cleaning,
mm,
a deep clean, where there's
mm,
going to be some things rearranged. There's going to be some things that are moved around and put in different places, reorganized, and reduce clutter. You know how, like, when you clean, you realize, man, I bought three of these because I didn't know where the
mm.
last one was.
Right, right, right.
No,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, and then you realize, oh man, I have all these things now I don't need, right?
Yeah.
Right? What
Yeah,
do I do
yeah.
with them?
Yeah.
Right? So when you're going through and
Yeah.
cleaning the house, you realize, oh man, I bought duplicates. I need to get,
Hmm.
I got extras.
Hmm.
This stuff, this one's broken. I need to throw this one out. And that's
Hmm.
exactly what's going to happen, with this administration as it's coming in. And he has to
Yeah.
move quickly because, 2022 comes around. The people are going to
Hmm.
see how dirty the house is. They're going to see, oh
Hmm.
man, this stuff isn't working. Let's,
Hmm.
let's remove this. But I think this part right here is incredible I mean, is an important message because you have to get that out that times are going to get a little bit tougher, but
Yeah.
for it to get exponentially better. Things will be
Hmm.
organized, you'll have more money in your pocket, you can
Hmm.
breathe, right? And
Yeah.
America's coming back. But we
Yeah,
do have
yeah,
to get through
yeah.
that period of, oh man, we starting to pull stuff out the closet. We starting to
Right.
dust. The dust, allergies acting up, all this stuff. So we had to,
Yeah.
get through that process. But like I said, man, America's back, baby.
Yeah. All right, all right. We're here. The golden age is upon us, huh?
Yeah, man.
That's great. Yeah. All right, brother. Thank you for joining me again, man. It's been a pleasure, man. We have to do this again with some more with a group. You know what I'm saying? I was hoping to do that today, but it's all good.
It's no
Yeah,
worries,
yeah.
man. You're gonna have to put me on the rotation, man. Just once a month or something like that. Let's make it happen.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm down. I'm down. Let's do that.
All right, let's make it happen, brother. All
Okay. Thanks so much, man.
right, Shannon.
Appreciate it.